And welcome to another scorching day of working on the Skyline. So trunk is all prepped out. We got it primed, got it sanded and leveled out, so it's ready to be wrapped. I need to pull off these wiper blades so I can get those all sanded up and repainted. Just a basic wipe down on the car and then get on our polishing coat. And then this exterior is pretty much done. Nothing too crazy on it, right? It's kind of a bare bones Skyline. It definitely had some paint imperfections and things like that, but I think at this point, we're gonna be good. And for these wipers, should be pretty straightforward. Typically there's just a little cap that you can pop off from the backside. There we go. We're gonna pull this nut off the top. This is like a spline underneath, so we'll just pop that off the spline. Hopefully these are salvageable. These are pretty rough, but we'll see once we start sanding into it. If we can save them, I think we should be able to. And then the front's gonna be the same deal, right? Just a couple little caps right there. So I just gotta pop this hood in order to get to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, get that popped, start sanding on these. Thing seems pretty stuck. There we go. One down. There's some giant ones on here. It looks like a 14, so I'm gonna get another little socket. But let's pull this cap. Ooh, and bad news on this one. We don't want to risk that. So that's gonna be good enough to hold that thing on there. But if I start turning it, it's probably gonna snap. Sucks. You know, screw it, we're gonna give it a go. We'll let that sit. Some PV blaster, that's the stuff right there. And I'm sure we can get it off. And that needs a new nut on there anyway. We're not gonna let that fly. I need good stuff on this car. Get some more leverage on this thing, just to break it loose. See if we snap this thing. Oh, fuck yeah. So we didn't snap it. We need a new nut. That's gonna be a lot better without all this rust on there. All right, now trying to get this thing sucks because I'm short. And I don't reach very far. But I think it'll come off. Oh, I might need this wrench again. This is way harder than the other one. I wish my body was a normal size human being. Nope. Can't get the angle on this. Oh, wait, maybe. Psych. All right, I'm gonna do this off camera because this shit's probably gonna take a while. But we'll come back and we'll be painting. So now we gotta find another one of these And I'm sure you all have something that looks like this as well. So anytime we're working on cars and things are either getting swapped out, maybe right there already. Things are getting swapped out, or you put it back together and for some reason you have extra nuts and bolts. Just hold on to those things. Let's see here. Is that good? Nope. Wrong thread pitch. Back to the container. Found it. There we go. That was actually pretty quick. That was like 2 seconds after. I should have just kept recording. All right, so I gotta clean up the threads on those little wiper studs, and I'll start sanding this stuff out. And these things will clean up. It says Nissan on there, if you can see that. Didn't know. It's full of rust before. So I have those wiper blades in the back. I just painted them with a gloss black epoxy. And then while that paint's curing, or at least flashing for the next coats, I'm gonna start tackling this glass to clean it up. I definitely wanna take care of this before I do the wrap on the trunk, because I don't want any kind of particles and contaminants getting underneath the wrap. But old trick for that, we're just using some 4/0 steel wool. So this will take off water spots. If you've got water spots on your glass, it'll take off some of this overspray and other contaminants that are inside of this glass as well. And it works pretty quick. The only caveat is while you're doing it, these little steel wool fibers will also start to fall off. So we're gonna have to clean out the car after we've cleaned off all the glass. Doesn't take too long, but it's just an extra step that we'll have to take, and I wanna make sure again that that's good before we throw the wrap down. So the angle of this sun is pretty horrible right now. So hopefully this is picking up and not getting completely washed out. But you can see what I'm talking about. There's all kinds of weird stuff just in the glass here. There's some overspray, spotting, and then like paint or some other kind of residue. So we're just gonna take that steel wool to it. And this doesn't scratch up the glass. Like if you were to take this onto the body of the car, for sure it's gonna scratch up the body. But you can see that big old spot already with barely working on it at all is completely gone. And we're just gonna hit the entirety of this glass this way. And this glass is all done. I don't know if you can really tell, the glass itself is super clean. All those nasty lines you see, that's all the defroster lines and where the like window tint is failing. But the glass, super cherry now. And now we're back out of my makeshift paint station. So you can see this epoxy paint does a pretty good job of filling in some of the low spots that, that old rust created. Even after you clean up the rust, there's some damage that it's done on the inside, and it usually leaves like these pits. So this should fill in a good amount of it. It's not gonna be complete and perfect, but it'll look pretty good. It does take a long time to cure. So with this stuff, I'm probably only gonna be able to hit the top in this one side for today. And then tomorrow, I'm gonna have to come back and hit the other side. So now I'll be getting this ready for my vinyl. I'm gonna give this a real good wipe down with some isopropyl alcohol. Just make sure anything else that might be left in here, whether it be a little bit of wax residue or something else, gets cleaned out because I want that vinyl to adhere. And then I'm gonna give myself a measurement so I can pre-cut my vinyl. So again, the way I'm gonna be running this is along this body line. I'm just gonna use the corners of each trunk section for my width. That way I get a good amount of overlap. So We are at 53, so just under 53, so I'm actually gonna go to 53, be a little bit over. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna go like 30 in my length because these corners pull pretty deep. And then in my width, I'll do 54. So that should be good for us to get started. I'll lay out all my cut tape. So along these body lines, I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping those lines out. And then, yeah, we'll be good to lay down the wrap. So this cut tape here is essentially braided fishing line that is harbored within a little piece of tape. You can compromise the top portion of the tape by folding this over and giving it a quick tug, which will allow that line to become exposed, and then it will cut through the vinyl. So super happy for whoever created this, because they have made my wrapping life so much easier over the years. And I'm actually gonna have to go a little bit under the shape of that body line if we're gonna make this look cleaner in the transition to the lower portion of the trunk. So I'm gonna do that here. All right. And that's good. And I give myself some length on both sides because we need that to split the cut tape. I'm just gonna follow those lines through the rest of the areas that I need to wrap. All right, so I had to step away a bit. We got a shift in the weather. So this might be a little bit more difficult than it would have been when it was warm. I might have to get the heat gun out, but we're just gonna go ahead and get started here. Right now I have my vinyl kind of just laid out. I'm not a vinyl professional by any means, or a wrap professional by any means, but this is kind of the way I do it, where I just lay it out with tape to show me where to tack my first edge. And then once I have that, work my way on the other side to double check it. Looks like that'll be good. Adjust this angle just a little bit. Lay that down, and then I'm just gonna peel the backing. And pull this nice and tight. So I'm just gonna set out one side pretty well and flat before I start manipulating it some more and pulling it up with the air release. But at least for me, usually when I do it this way, makes for it to be laid out pretty flat on the first pass. Then I'll just have to pull up from the top. So this is laid out generally where I want it. And I'm just gonna start working my way up through the top to push out some of this air. All right, so the majority of that's all laid out. So, I need to bolt that in. I'm just gonna get some heat on this corner, get it to roll the edge properly. So I'm gonna lay that right there next to the brake light. That should make it easier for me. Just add some heat, move it around a little bit, and keep on going. Okay, so that was about 10 minutes or so worth of work. Not bad. After wrapping the S2000, I think everything feels not too bad. But now I'm gonna do this cut tape. So sometimes the stuff cooperates with me, sometimes it doesn't. But what we do is fold it over on itself. Gonna give it a little pinch and then a fast pull. There we go. And the hope is that you'll have that line rip through the center, and then we run that over. I pull it straight up to the edge, make sure that's planted nice and tight. Hold the vinyl to the sides of it, give it a quick tug, and now we're just gonna run it all the way down through the seam that we made. Now as I get toward like the corners and stuff, I usually again like to give a little extra pressure because I don't want it to lose its ability to cut midway through. All right, so there's that piece. Then we're just gonna pull the excess out. Now I'm just gonna put some heat on that to set it. So adhesives, kind of like heat, to really set in place. The same thing with like double-sided tape and stuff like that. And then this portion here that's left over, I'm gonna use that to flip to the inside of the trunk, and then we'll cut the same kind of ledge across so I can tuck it back underneath. And now I'm gonna be doing the same thing across that bottom line that we created. Again, I'm gonna get a little bit of heat on that just to set it down. And then you just got that last side and the top. Stuff really wanted to stick on that tail light. When I feel something gets super sticky, I always get a little bit worried because I don't want it to like pull up old bad paint. Fortunately, we were good there. And as many things are on this car, rinse and repeat. Get some heat, cut the top of the blade. And then what I'm gonna do on this top, just to make this a bit easier, is where this wiper is, I'm cutting out that relief. I don't need a lot of material here, so I can actually cut a lot of this excess. So I'm gonna cut a lot of the excess off like this before I start working my way down to fold it over. And if you're wondering what blade I'm using, because I know I don't use a typical blade that many people do, but it is a carpet blade. These are super, super sharp. If one side starts dulling, I just flip it over. I like that I can hold it really compact to my fingers. You know, I don't know if anybody else is really using them, but I like it. It works for me. The longer blades seem to give me problems. It's harder for me to hold a good angle that's cutting it. It's harder for me to manage like close quarters, if that makes any sense. But this is just so tight, it goes where I want it to go almost all the time. So I got this flipped up, rolled all the vinyl over, and now I'm just gonna heat it and shrink it on the backside. So we have that cut line on that body line. That's gonna come up here and go across. It's definitely not gonna be for everyone, but it looks way better than this shit. So you can see how messed up this paint is. And granted, I didn't cut and buff this stuff, but like all the weird like spidering stuff and all these pits and discolored territories, these little things, that was all over the trunk too. Now the trunk doesn't have that. Right now the trunk just has a nice glossy black look to it. I think with the spoiler on there and stuff, it's gonna look pretty nice. So we'll find out on the next one when we do the roof and install the spoiler. And I almost forgot, near the tail light, I need to do that part. So similarly, just get some heat. I'm just gonna roll these edges slowly with my finger. Give a little bit of pressure here so it doesn't do what's called fingering. Fingering leaves a bunch of lines in the vinyl as you lay it. Then we'll put a little heat on the backside similarly to really seal that down. There you go, nice and smooth. All right, we'll see you on the next one.